my name is Kira and welcome back to my channel. I could not be in a better mood to film right now. I just got home from work about 40 minutes ago, put on my makeup, got in a quick cat training session, and my cat can do paw now. I really couldn't be more proud. So I'm very excited to film this video, but I'm even more excited to be finished and go eat dinner and then keep reading Mistborn after. So let's jump right in. As you can tell from the title, this is my May wrap up. In May, I read 6 books. That might not feel like a lot to you, but I am personally very proud of having read 6 books. I have not read a single book this year except for 1 book in March, other than these 6 books in May. And I just feel like I am living. I'm so excited. I feel my reading slump just leaving my body. I'm so ready to read, and I could not be happier that that's the case. I think that there's been a lot of different things contributing to my massive reading slump this year, probably partially seasonal depression. It was the very first nice spring summery day in May, and I just felt so inspired to pick up a book, and that's what I did that day. I went up to my roof and I picked up a book, and then I just never stopped reading. I just kept going, and I'm so happy to be riding this wave, and I think I am back. Another reason I think I might be in a reading slump is that in fall 2021, I did start grad school, so every weekend I always just have so much academic reading, academic research, academic writing to do, and I'm almost never in the mood to write. And I'm still in grad school right now, but my current class has no required reading. It's all project-based, and it's awesome, and it's just left me with so much extra brain power left to read for fun. I also can't rule out that my reading slump might be partially caused by the book I picked up in March. I read The Eye of the World. It's right up here. The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan, book 1 in the Wheel of Time, and it was all right. It was fine, but right after book 1, I tried going on to book 2, and that was a mistake. I stopped book 2 about 300 pages in. I don't know if I have plans on continuing to finish it right now because it was very boring. I've heard that book 2 gets a lot better. But anyways, this is not a book about the Wheel of Time. This is my May wrap up. Like I said, I read 6 books. Here are 5 of them. The 5th one I gave to my mom to read, so I don't have it with me. I didn't read super diversely this month. I actually read 2 romance books by the same author and then 4 mystery thrillers. But that's okay right now. As long as we're reading, that's fine. I'm gonna try and read a little bit more diversely in June, and you can check out my June TBR video to see what my plans are for that. There were no 1-star books, which is pretty good, but there were also no 5-star books either. I did have 3 4-star reads, which is awesome. I had 1 2.5-star read, 1 3-star read, and 1 3.5-star read. Let's jump right into the books, starting with my lowest rated book, which is The Girl in the Spider's Web by David Lagerkrantz / by Stieg Larsson. This is the 4th book in the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo series, and it's the first book written by a different author. The first 3 books were all written by Stieg Larsson, and after Stieg Larsson passed, David Lagerkrantz picked it up. I did really love the first 3 books, but the 4th one just did not do it for me, unfortunately, so I have to give it a 2.5 star. I just didn't feel like David Lagerkrantz did the story of Lisbeth Salander and Michael Bunkus justice. For one thing, they almost never interact in this book. They're not physically together in person until the last paragraph of the book, which was really a bummer because such a good part of the book is those 2 characters' chemistry together. And I think that was a mistake not doing that. I also feel like Lisbeth's characterization is kind of all over the place. It's a common complaint about this book that she's just a glorified babysitter in it. And even though David Lagerkrantz does make a really great effort to explain why Lisbeth feels so connected to the child in the book, it still just fell flat. I think Lisbeth is really known in the first 3 books for being a fire starter, and she wasn't starting so many fires in this book. She was really just reacting to fires that were already going on, which just seemed a little bit out of character for her. I also think the setting was lacking. In the first 3 books, the setting is such a major part of the story, like very cozy mystery-ish, and this was not that at all. It's set in Sweden, but we don't get a lot about Sweden. With all those things together, that's led me to really unfortunately giving this a 2.5-star read, which I'm really bummed about because I think the first 3 in the stories were all 4-star reads for me, and I'm not so sure right now if I'm going to continue on with the series because this was pretty disappointing. Going in order from worst to best, the next book on the list is Finlay Donovan is Killing It by Elle Cosimano. I found this book through Books and Lala's channel. It's one of her most recent favorite book reads. And in the past, I've picked up books that are highly recommended from her, and I really loved them, and I was a little bit disappointed with this book. I think I maybe didn't set my expectations right all the way, so that's probably a little bit my fault, but I just didn't love this one. It's a 3-star read for me. Finley Donovan is the story of a novelist who has a meeting with her agent in a Panera Bread and then gets overheard and mistaken for a hit woman. The woman who overheard her then tries to hire Finley to kill her husband, and hijinks ensue. I think my expectations were just a little bit off for this one. Obviously, I knew it was going to be quirky and a little bit offbeat, but I almost didn't expect it to be so ridiculous at some point. Obviously, in a book like this, we do suspend our disbelief, but it kind of felt like things just kept happening to Finley, kind of like in the last book. Like, Finley Donovan wasn't an active participant in her life. Things were just falling into place all around her, and she wasn't doing anything to make that happen. The people she was hired to kill just kept accidentally dying on her watch, and I just wish she was a more active participant in her role as a hit woman. Despite that, there is a really good hook at the end of this book for the sequel. There's also a 3rd book coming out soon, so I am still considering potentially picking up the next one. I just hope that if Finley Donovan tries to continue her career as a hit woman, she would actually try killing someone herself. Next up, we have the It book, the book of the moment, the book on every single person's wrap-up right now, and that is Book Lovers by Emily Henry. This was fine. This was a 3.5-star read for me. Everybody's reading it, everybody's loving it, but this was just all right for me. I have seen a few common criticisms of the story, and I do agree with most of them. The big one being that for an enemies to lovers book, the tension resolves pretty fast. I don't think we get enough enemies out of this book. They're enemies for about 1 chapter. They're enemies in the very first chapter, and the next time they see each other, they're booing it up, drinking together at a bar, and then making out after. Seriously, they make out like 100 pages in, and it just ruined all of the tension for me. I liked the lead characters a lot. I liked that they were both really grumpy. It wasn't one grumpy and one pleasant person. They were both grumps, and that was cool. I liked that it was a subversion of a traditional Hallmark story where someone leaves the city for the small town forever. That was fun. It just the tension broke too early. Once they made out the first time, I was like, okay, do I need to keep reading? Not really. Also, the main woman was with her sister the whole time, and the sister's plot could not have done less for this book. It just did not need to be there. It was basically pointless filler. Because of that, it's a 3.5. I did like it. I do recommend it. It was a great little romance read, but it wasn't anything to really write home about. Next up on the list is also a romance, and it is also by Emily Henry, and that is People We Meet on Vacation. I liked People We Meet a lot better than Book Lovers. This was a 4-star for me. A lot of things about this book were really great. I really liked that it was best friends to lovers. I also really liked the mutual pining that both of the leads were going through, especially when they were both seeing other people. I also like that there's multiple timelines within this book. It flips back and forth between this summer and previous summers, and in the current summer, you know that something happened in the past that kind of drove a rift between our 2 lead characters, Alex and Poppy. And then we see the past summers, and we keep waiting to see what happened. What was it that drove these 2 apart? Because in the current timeline, they haven't gone on a vacation together in, I think, 2 years because something happened. And as the reader, I'm really just rooting for them, but also trying to figure out what the drama was that drove them apart. I really liked seeing them in the present, just trying not to be awkward around each other, but then I really also enjoyed going through the past and seeing all of their cute memories from all of the many vacations they've been on. I think I would have liked a stronger ending with this one. We did get a happily ever after, and that was fine. I'm not saying I need married with kids, but both characters kind of had to give up a lot in order to find their happiness. And I kind of just wish that they both could have kept their awesome careers and still been happy with each other and didn't have to give it all up. I know that it was a very realistic take on what people sacrifice to make relationships work, but this is a fiction novel. It's a romance read. We read these to feel better. I would have liked everything being tied up neat with the bow, good career, good relationship, everything together. But it was still a solid read, 4 stars. I definitely recommend this one. 2 books left. They're both 4-star mystery thrillers, and something they both had in common was they were both very cozy feeling mysteries. The first book is The Kind Worth Killing by Peter Swanson. I don't have this one with me, even though I do own it physically. My mom visited last weekend and I thought she would really like it, so I sent her away with it, and so I'll get it back soon. This one is kind of tough to talk about while avoiding spoilers, so I'm gonna tread pretty lightly here. The book opens with Ted and Lily on an overnight flight together, and before he knows it, Ted finds himself spilling all of his secrets to Lily, including the fact that he knows his wife is cheating on him with his home contractor. He lets it slip that he feels like he could kill Miranda, and Lily says, I can help you with that. So they start plotting Miranda's downfall. Suddenly, Ted and Lily find themselves plotting her murder together. Once they get back to Massachusetts, they set their plan into motion. There is so much more to this book than just that little description I gave you, but I don't want to speak on it a whole lot more because this book is filled with twists and turns at every page. There's just so much going on, and it made it so much fun to read. Plus, this book is set in Boston and also Concord, Massachusetts. I live in Boston. I'm very familiar with Concord, so it was a lot of fun to read that New England fall setting. I never realized this about myself, but I think the atmosphere and the setting of a story really does so much for me. And like, not even in the book, like I want a strong setting in the book. It also matters where I'm reading my book. Like, I love reading a mystery or a romance up on the roof, but I can't read a romance on the roof. I don't know. Does anyone else do that? You gotta set the mood for the book you're reading. And finally, the last book on the list is They Never Learn by Lane Fargo. This was definitely my favorite book I read this month, which worked out really well because it was the center for my very first weekend reading vlog, which I'll link up here. This is my favorite book I read in May. It was really sapphic. The bisexual representation was just, it was a little bit cheesy in the beginning, but it really did settle in and find its grooves throughout the way, and I really enjoyed the way it was shared throughout the book. This book follows 2 characters. The first one is Scarlett, who is an English professor at Gorman University, and she kills men who hurt women. Throughout the entire story, we watch Scarlett as she hunts down and plots the demise of a few different bad men. The second perspective is Carly, who is a freshman at Gorman University, and we follow Carly as she kind of deals with being an awkward freshman, but Carly really begins to thrive when she starts hanging out more with her roommate, and then her roommate has something bad happen to her, and Carly swears to take revenge. I really enjoyed this book because there were a few times where I felt like I knew what was going to happen. I had pretty solid predictions, but the book actually lulled me into this false sense of thinking I knew what's going on, and then something totally different happened. But it didn't do it in a way that was tricky. It didn't do it in a way that was withholding information, which I really liked. I don't like it when books are intentionally trying to trick me, and I don't like it when the books are like, here's this massive piece of information that would have changed everything you thought. This book wasn't like that. I really enjoyed the way the 2 leads, Carly and Scarlett, interacted eventually. I was really waiting for it to happen throughout a lot of the book, and it did not disappoint. I know it was a quick 6 books, but I'm proud that I read 6 books this month. If you liked the video, please consider liking or subscribing, and let me know down in the comments if you've ever read any of the books I talked about, if you want to read any of the books you've ever talked about, or let me know what you read in May. Thanks for watching.